Welcome to this week in the world of wrestling.
Welcome to TWitWoW, the best wrestling podcast made for wrestling fans, by wrestling fans, on the web today. I'm John, that's my cohort and commentary Ashton, and this is our NXT review. And this was the go-home show before NXT Takeover The End next week. And I gotta say, this is a fun go-home show. We had one really fun tag team match that was preceded by an interesting opening segment. A contract signing for the NXT Women's Championship that I liked how it was handled. We got a little bit more insight on some impending acts. So all in all, I felt like this was a nice go-home show, you know, packed a good punch. Ashton, what'd you think of it?
Yeah, I really liked tonight's episode of NXT, man. I thought that this was a really well-done show. I kind of wish more episodes of NXT flowed the way this one did.
That's actually a great word for it, bro, is it had a great flow tonight to it.
Yeah.
You know? Nothing felt like too contrived or whatever. And by the way, I forgot to mention in like my preceding comments about highlighting the show, the interview segment for the NXT Championship, they freaking nailed it. That was
they
another.
knocked that out of the park.
Yeah, that was a really worthwhile segment. So with that said, let's get right into our first segment. Heat of the night. And yeah, no heats of the night. No nitpicks. I loved everything that happened on this episode of NXT tonight. I gotta be honest, it was great. What about you?
Yeah, man, I feel the same way. This is one of the better episodes of NXT of 2016 for sure. I mean, we had 3 matches tonight, which Lucha Underground seems to think is sort of the ideal number for an hour-long show, and after tonight, I can't disagree.
Absolutely. So with that said, let us get right into our NXT review, and we open up with the Revival.
Which I thought was a really good twist, because, you know, with NXT, it seems like we always open with either the women's champ or her challenger, or the singles champ or his challenger. So it's just really cool to see the Revival starting the show, kind of a change of pace with a tag team championship #1 contenders opening the show.
And it's almost poetic, you know, when you put it that way, Ashton, given that these guys do credit themselves for the revival of the tag team division, hence why they're called in the first place the Revival.
Yeah, well, it's funny, though, because I've always thought that they were calling themselves the Revival because they're, like, the revival of that old school style.
Right.
Like, that smash mouth, they even say, like, no flips, just fists, like, that style.
I think it works both ways, actually, because I think a lot of people would agree with you, but I know they've said, like, it's because we led the charge for the tag team division, you know, regaining interest and relevance here in NXT, and they pretty much, you know, they say how great they are. They give American Alpha credit. They're like, oh, they're great, you know, at the amateur level, but, you know, we're top-tier guys, and after Takeover The End, they'll be able to use their towel to dry up their tears, but then they get an unexpected interruption, Ashton.
I really liked this, but I also love that they said about how American Alpha are really good amateur athletes, but these are the big leagues. I thought that was cool.
Yeah, and that was a theme they would play on in the second half of this whole thing because Gargano and Ciampa interrupted. And what did you think of this interruption, Ashton?
Oh, you know what? I love the idea of Gargano and Ciampa as singles guys, but if they're going to be a tag team, it's great to see them getting this kind of highlight put on them.
Dude, I love how aggressive they're being in just their pursuit of the NXT tag team titles. Like, you could tell, like, these guys want to have gold around their waists. They want to be those guys. And yeah, after the little bit of a role they've been on, you know, most recently beating TM61, they just come out and they put it bluntly. We don't think you can beat American Alpha. And quite frankly, from where we are, we don't think you can beat us either. And, you know, the Revival scoffs at this initially. They're like, I get it. You got the chip on your shoulder because you competed in a few bingo halls, but this is the big time.
The crowd oohed at that comment, too. It was funny.
Yeah. And the Revival really self-congratulating themselves, you know, patting themselves on the back like, oh, we're big time and this is big time business. And then they walk up the ramp. And I love Gargano with, and I mean, I do like nothing against the guy, but I love almost the grade school insult. For top guys, you're sure running up that ramp pretty fast. And I love Corey Graves chiming in. They're walking, Gargano. Like, it's like you diminish the insult, but don't take away the full impact. That's cool. And then Scott Dawson Dash Wilder, they come back in the ring. They're like, oh, you want it, you got it. So, yeah, they start locking it up there, or at least have a little bit of a skirmish, which we would know would lead to a match later in the night.
Yeah, man. And I love, too, that, like, it seemed like the Revival were just kind of overlooking these guys, but then all it took was for Gargano to get on the mic and be like, oh, well, you guys call yourselves top guys, but for top guys, you sure are running up that ramp awfully fast, aren't you?
Yeah.
And, yeah, I guess that ticked them off enough to come back into the ring, but as they get back into the ring, they're met by drop kicks from Gargano and Ciampa, and that knocks them out of the ring. Well, it knocks one of them out of the ring. The other one takes a clothesline to get out of the ring. But then they're kind of walking up the ramp, and they're looking back at Gargano and Ciampa, and they're angry enough at this point that they basically accept the gauntlet laid down by Gargano and Ciampa.
Yeah, I really loved how they got to this match, and it really does feel like a takeover worthy match 1 week, before their takeover event, NXT Takeover the End. So I really enjoyed everything about this.
Yeah, man, this was a solid segment, but up next was an even better segment, in my opinion, because we had a Cathy Kelley interview with Shinsuke Nakamura, and Nakamura is just dynamite.
Yeah, what did you think about what he said here?
I loved it. She asks him how he thinks his match with Austin Aries is going to go. And he just said, he kind of ponders on it for a little bit, like, I wonder. And then he goes, I think he will bow down to the king of strong style. And then he does his pose, and it's awesome.
I think what really sets, in terms of, foreign competitors in NXT, particularly, Japanese, because we have Hideo, Asuka, and now Shinsuke. What sets him apart from those guys, especially Hideo, because I know Asuka has a little bit of it going on. Hideo, I've never really seen it from him. Well, I guess that's not true because we used to praise him about it, but he's so expressive, Nakamura. I love it. Just like in the face and everything. I think Hideo's expressive in terms of like how he sells and like how he works in the ring. That's all good. And Asuka, of course, with the signature smile. But Nakamura is just next level. I think I've heard comparisons about him and, Michael Jackson, King of Pop and all that, and, you get that vibe. I love the eccentricities of the character. I love just how authentic he feels. He doesn't feel artificial in the least. And, yeah, I'm really hoping he mops the floor with Austin Aries at TakeOver the End. I'm assuming he will. And then where he goes from there is anybody's guess, because I know you and I have had very passionate discussions about that. But the future will soon reveal itself. So there you go.
Yeah, that's... Oh, he's just so good, man.
No doubt, brother, no doubt.
But up next, we had what I'm going to go right ahead and say is one of my favorite matches on NXT television ever. Ty Dillinger versus Buddy Murphy. And I have specifically in my notes that this is just the kind of match I want to see more of on NXT. These are two guys, one of whom is incredibly over with the crowd, the other of whom is sort of that NXT they're both really NXT homegrown talents, but the guy that isn't necessarily super over with the crowd is that way because he's such a good heel and he's really good at getting the crowd to dislike him. I want more of this.
Yeah, dude, this was great.
I love this match so much.
Yeah, I mean, what were some of your favorite moments in this match, dude?
Dude, it's not necessarily that I had favorite moments. It's just the feel of the match itself. When Ty Dillinger's music hits and he enters the frickin' arena, this crowd gets electric. He might be the most over babyface in NXT.
Yeah, not named Shinsuke Nakamura, which, I mean,
come
on now.
True. That's true.
Yeah. But, I mean, at the same time, though, actually, I mean, come on now. It's Shinsuke Nakamura.
Yeah, that's the thing. Nakamura was a big-time name before he got to NXT. Dillinger's homegrown.
Exactly.
Dude, that's what I think made this match feel so right, was that these guys are both... Basically, they weren't well known before they got to NXT. These feel like homegrown NXT, homegrown talents.
Well, let's explore that a little bit, because you said something very interesting. Do you think, like, I don't want to say you personally, like, that's your personal problem with NXT, but more generally, do you think that's a problem with NXT? Do you think the focus has been taken off a little bit too much on the homegrown talent, and we're focusing too much on guys?
Well, you know what, though? Because when NXT first showed up as this Full Sail version of NXT after the whole, game show and NXT Redemption stuff was over, even then, like, Seth Rollins wasn't a homegrown talent. So I can't even necessarily say, like, let's go back to and really, like, my favorite NXT television match of all time was a Sami Zayn Cesaro match, and both of those guys were big names before they got to WWE.
Right.
So I can't even necessarily say that. I don't know. This just felt different.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand that, because I think these are two guys. I love Buddy Murphy in the sense that, like, yeah, you're right, he's a great heel, but he's also currently displaced.
Dude,
You know,
Buddy Murphy, just in the ring and the way that he sells and bumps, he reminds me so much of a young Triple H. It's insane.
yeah. Particularly that super kick sell for me. That's when it went off for me, like, oh, yeah, I see it.
Where he spit out his gum. Yeah, that's such a Triple H thing to do.
Yeah. And good God, dude, if I could just talk about Ty Dillinger for a second.
I know, he's so over. It's amazing.
I think I've said this before, but I'm going to keep saying it until it happens. I mean, it wouldn't be the first time you and I have done that on a TWitWoW. I want him to be that kind of underdog contender for the NXT championship. I don't care if he gets mauled by Samoa Joe or whatever. That arena, if they knew he was going to stand across from the NXT champion and had a chance to be the NXT champion of the world, would lose their fucking shit. Because they lost their shit tonight and he was competing against Buddy Murphy. And no disservice to Buddy Murphy, but again, what I'm enjoying about the character present, he's currently in a period of displacement. Alexa Bliss has dumped him. Blake has probably dumped him, so that team's done. He's displaced. But if you put a guy like Ty Dillinger against just a badass, so I know he does get cheers in his own right, but I think he really is working on trying to be like that heel, and Samoa Joe, I mean, that would be an amazing atmosphere. I'm not asking for a full-blown program. He just deserves one match for the NXT Championship to me with how over he is. And, yeah, I mean, everything about this match was great. Ty Dillinger has got his character down to a science. I'm very much looking forward to seeing Buddy Murphy find himself, in the wake of all this. And the big thing for me in this match, Ashton, what preceded that super kick where Buddy Murphy had like the Triple H cell kind of spot spitting out the gum. Ty Dillinger gets the final right hand, the perfect 10 right hand because they were counting up with him. And then he hits an Ushi-Goroshi after pulling down both knee pads, which I love the atmosphere he creates for that. And he gets the win off of that. And I told you, if that's his new finisher compared to like the whole knee breaker thing like on the face he used to do, we're good now. Like, because that was my biggest problem with Dillinger before was his finisher. If he's going to use the Ushi-Goroshi now, like, I'm all for that. Absolutely. So, yeah, this is a really fun match.
Yeah, man, this is so good. And I got to say, I dig the Ushi-Goroshi finisher, but you've also got to think, like, does that maybe kind of translate poorly if they're ever going to call him up to the main roster just because of how much AJ uses that move as just like a random regular move?
That is true. I would rather, though, just that be a kind of let's cross that bridge when we come to it kind of
maybe
thing.
I mean maybe they can kind of use the logic that Dillinger's is more devastating because he pulls the knee pad down.
Right.
And because he's the perfect 10, so he executes it better than AJ, even though that's a stretch.
Yeah. I do have one last question for you, though, before we move on from this match.
Okay.
We've been talking a lot. You and I, we did do a SmackDown Going Live and draft discussion, which if you guys haven't seen that, go on the channel and check it out. And we talked about what it means for NXT. A big shake-up, big talent raid. Could this talent raid be the opportunity for a guy like Ty Dillinger to finally rise to, I don't want to say the top of the card, but certainly rise above where he currently is? I mean, is this a unique opportunity for talents like Dillinger?
Maybe? I don't know, man.
I would like to think so, Ashton. I
don't know if he's ever going to be in that NXT World Championship contention. Right. But I think that sort of his his time to strike would be right after the roster gets rated, you know?
Yeah, and I will say, because we were talking earlier about, like, old NXT, and I know you said, like, there were certain things you couldn't say. One thing that I think I could say, I know it's the NXT title, and it should be treated significantly. I'm not saying to downplay it or water it down, but I do miss the days, when you could have those contenders that maybe were just contenders not because of their name brand, but because, I don't know, maybe they were menacing or they were on a bit of a roll. Like when guys like Brodus Clay used to get NXT championship matches. Like, I would just love to see Ty Dillinger just on TV, not even a takeover, get an NXT championship match because he is so over. I think you could tell one hell of a story. And yeah, he gets the win here, which is great to see. You've got a hell of a babyface on your hands there, NXT. I really hope something comes from him in the future. And I won't give up hope until he's formally released. So there you go.
Yeah, wow. Until he's formally released, huh? You're expecting that day to come.
Well, I'm not expecting that day to come, but that's the only way I'd give up hope on them not doing anything with him, because it's so obvious. Like, it's so ripe. Like,
I mean, if somebody's that over, I highly doubt that they're going to get released anytime soon.
Oh, certainly not. But, I mean, it's sad that we even have to ask the question, are they going to be used in a greater capacity? Because I feel like more often than not, the answer is yes, but Dillinger's just such a weird case for whatever reason, so I'm hoping the answer is yes.
What do you mean by that?
Well, I don't know. Like, I just feel like, I don't know. When
just because he's as over as he is, but he hasn't really gotten a push yet?
Exactly. Like, I just, I normally feel like it would have happened now for other talents. Right. And I don't know why it's taken a bit long. And probably because, and we go back to my central question that I just asked you a few moments ago, it's a different makeup for NXT. I mean, you up Finn Balor, Joe, Aries, Nakamura now. So, I mean, the landscape has changed significantly. But now when that pressure gets released, I feel like Ty Dillinger is going to rise up. I mean, if it doesn't happen then I'm just going to have this, like, defeated sigh because, like, what are they doing? He's so over. So, yeah, great effort. He gets the win, and we'll see what the future holds.
Yeah, he is supremely over. Like, it's not, like, the main roster people would love to be as over as Ty Dillinger is.
Right? That's the soundbite. I don't even want to add anything to that. That was perfect.
All right. Well, up next, we had probably the segment of the night, honestly. Corey Graves' sit-down interview with Balor and Joe here.
What did you think of it, man? Give me your thoughts.
The tension in this segment was palpable. It was insane. Like, my favorite lines out of the whole interview were when Finn told Joe, "You stabbed me in the back," and Joe said, "Well, yeah, that was the only place I could stab you because you turned your back on me and you were running away."
That was amazing.
And then he goes on to say, "I would have loved to push it into your heart." Like, oh my God! Goosebumps. Just chills, man.
Joe was absolutely visceral here, as I believe he should be. I mean, when you look at him, his intensity, everything, I think he's carrying himself exactly as he should as NXT champion. And I'll tell you just very briefly what I love most about this. It wasn't even a specific soundbite or what have you. I loved that they didn't let you forget anything. I love that, again, Joe brought up the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic. I love that in, what was it? It was Dallas. It was Dallas, where Joe had the blood. And he said, "I'm bleeding, yet people are checking on my well-being. You're down on the ground." I love that he brought that up because that pissed off so many people.
I did, dude, and I love, too, that he even said, like, "Oh, well, I'm beating you down, and all these medical professionals are trying to get me out of the ring, trying to pull me away from getting to you."
Exactly.
Oh, that's such a great plot point. I love it, man.
And I love that they used it because if you looked at the fan reaction, I was certainly among them. I don't know if you were with me or if you were more forgiving, but I'm like, yeah, all this stoppage to me hurt the flow of the match, and I couldn't get as into it as I wanted to because they were setting up a great atmosphere, an atmosphere they immediately destroyed, and Joe takes it, and he transforms it into, well, I can't say that, obviously, but what I can say is it's NXT protecting you from me because you know that I can beat you, and you know what I do, and if I had done it to you, you wouldn't even be here right now. I fucking love, dude. I have said over and over, it is an era of heels, and Joe is just so fucking good with the confidence he has and the swagger he is, because he knows it. Like, he is a guy that he could look me in the face and say to me, "I could punch you in the face in front of your mother," and you would just lay there and you'd cry, and I'd be like, "Yup." just gonna go right over there. It's like, what do you say to that? What do you say to a man that can say the stuff that he said to Finn Balor tonight? And as great as Finn Balor is, and this isn't denigrating him, in a kayfabe sense, you know Joe can do it. Like, this isn't just somebody like take, for example, a heel like The Miz, who's amazing in his own right. You know, he's a different kind of heel altogether. But, like, if he was to talk tough, none of us would believe it. Joe does it, and I'm like, okay, I'm just... I'm going to move all the way over here as far away from you as possible. Like, that's the vibe I get. And Balor, to his credit, I loved what he said, because Corey Graves had a great question here. Do you know what you're risking? I mean, anybody that knows you knows that you'll inevitably be, like, in a WrestleMania main event. That's the compliment Corey Graves gave Finn Balor. We know you can main event a WrestleMania. And Balor's response is, well, I really don't care about that. I don't care about that. You're talking months from now, years from now. Right now is what matters. That NXT championship is everything to me right now. And much like the main roster guys, Cesaro, Owen, Zayn, and Miz made the Intercontinental Championship feel like everything, Balor and Joe are making the NXT Championship seem like everything, because with Joe's just hunger and his bitterness that it took him this long, and now his just relentless nature to hang on to it, and Balor just saying, that's mine, I'm the line, this and that, it feels like everything. I gotta tell you, and this isn't to, crap on Roman Reigns or anything, the NXT Championship to me, with how these guys sell it, feels so much more important to me right now than the WWE World Heavyweight title.
Oh my God, yes. Yeah, that's not even a question at this point, dude.
So good. I mean, anything else you want to say, bro, about this?
Well, not necessarily about this, but I do want to just kind of chime in with some TWitWoW related news.
Okay.
Because I know that on our last NXT review, we kind of came to the conclusion that, we don't do NXT TakeOver live special preview and prediction, so let's just predict things now. As it turns out, we do NXT TakeOver live special preview and predictions, so we're going to be doing that next Tuesday.
Yes, you guys will see us then. I actually remembered that we did as well, I think a little bit after we went off the air, and I'm like, well, we'll see what comes of it. But yeah, next Tuesday. Well, that sounds great. We'll have all of our predictions, and I'll tell you,
On Tuesday, June the 20th. Oh, man, it wasn't the 21st. For some reason, I thought it was the 21st and not the 7th, but it's the 7th, but it ruined my Regal impression, and now let's just move on.
It's all right. Yeah, let's move on. What came after this?
Well, after this was Elias Samson versus Austin Aries, and yeah, how far Elias Samson has fallen.
I know, right? The TWitWoW discussions went from, at least on my end, oh yeah, top heel potential definitely, to meh. That drop, though. What'd you think of this match, man?
Can I just say, and this is a little bit more on the sort of personal side, but my mom watches NXT sometimes, and when Elias Samson first debuted, she freaking worshipped him. Like, she adored Elias Samson. And a couple weeks ago, when he was facing Nakamura, I said, hey, you want to watch an Elias Samson match? And she said, nah. And I said, why don't you like him anymore? And she said, because he's a loser. Way to go, NXT.
Yeah, really. What have I been saying? Everybody loves a winner. Don't try and deny it. Be like, we all love a good underdog story. Yeah, the underdog story in the hope that the underdog eventually, wins.
Well, yeah, the whole thing, though, is like the underdog is somebody that you need the underdog to be someone that you can cheer for. Elias Samson shouldn't be booked as an underdog. He's the freaking bad guy.
Yeah, he's looking like a perpetual loser. That's what Elias Samson looks like. Which is a shame, because I was thinking back to his vignettes, before we got the ML, and I'm like, man, I would kill to turn back the hands of time, because he seems so cool, and even a little bit menacing to a degree.
Do you know what I think is really missing from Elias Samson, the character?
Credibility? No, I'm kidding. What is it?
Hunger, man. He's not hungry. He just shows up, he wrestles, and when the match ends and he loses, he just goes back to drifting like nothing ever happened. This guy should be hungry. There should be a degree of desperation. Like, if you're a drifter, that sort of has the implication that you're homeless,
Yeah.
And like, if you're homeless but you're working in NXT, I mean, yeah, it's, you got to kind of suspend your disbelief a little bit there, but you should want to win every match. You should want the title because you should want to get paid more so that you don't have to be homeless anymore.
And dude, you know what's funny? I'm so glad you ended it the way you did, because I'm like, well, if we want to make him hungry, we could do this storyline where somebody destroys his guitar and then he really starts like wrestling with his back into it solely so he can pay for a new guitar and also not be homeless, being the bigger thing there. I don't know, because that guitar is like everything and he goes off and he drifts. Maybe if he lost that, it could be character progression, because I used to think this character had top heel potential. NXT's booking clearly disagrees. He has been fed to all of the acts that WWE is more interested in tinkering with and promoting and all that stuff. Maybe some character reworks in her, because I like the performer. I like what he does in ring.
Yeah.
I like how he works the ring, and getting heat and everything. The performer's fine. The packaging, I guess, just needs some work, because this is not, in NXT's mind anyway, top heel packaging. So, I mean, what do you think, Ashton? Do you think a character reworks in order? Do you think he's just going to keep plummeting? Like, where do we go from here? What do we do?
I'm telling you, man, I just want to see that desperation, because, like, if you think about it, like, the whole thing with a character like this, like, he should be cheating at every possible opportunity. He should be, he should be doing what the frickin' aerial assholes did on NX or on Lucha Underground tonight. He should be doing like Toru Yano style tactics and antics in every match. He should be like grabbing the ref and distracting him and then raising his leg up to low blow the guy and then roll him up for a win. Like, that should be what Elias Samson is winning his matches with, but instead, for some reason, NXT just decided, no, man, let's just make him a regular dude that Corey Graves despises.
God, that's another thing I can't get over. And really, I'm going to be honest, guys. I hate that Austin Aries is like being built up right now. I mean, I'm really confident that Shinsuke Nakamura will deal with him, but then again, we may be in for another surprise. We'll get our finalized thoughts on Tuesday. But yeah, Austin Aries wins. I will say I did like his elbow to the back of the head off the top to Elias Samson. I thought that was pretty cool. And seeing the last chancery again, I'm like, well, he finally got that back in his repertoire. But yeah, I probably will never get at this point just the big deal about Austin Aries. And I mean, the crowd even thinks that he should be heel. That's the thing too. I think Austin Aries would be more palatable to me, and I think I've said this before, if he was heel, because then he gets on a microphone and he says, more or less, that crowd immediately starts Nakamura chants, and he's like, that's right, at TakeOver, Nakamura, I prove that I am the best and that the spotlight is on me. All to boos. So I'm hoping Austin Aries works heel at TakeOver, because that could make the match a bit more interesting, seeing Nakamura have to overcome the heel tactics of Austin Aries. So
yeah, man, it's funny too, because like they called it the Last Chancery. I always thought that move was called the Horns of Aries.
No, I knew it as the Last Chancery even in TNA. I mean, maybe they called it the Horns of Aries when he was in ROH and whatnot, but yeah, I've always known it as the Last Chancery.
Yeah, that's I don't watch TNA, but yeah.
I mean, that was my tail end right when I was about to get off and just be like, yeah, I'm done with this crap. Like,
that had to be at least relatively recent, didn't it?
No, well,
like within the last couple of years at least.
Yeah, last couple of years at least, yeah.
Wow, I mean, you would think that I would have known about you watching TNA in the last couple of years, but I didn't.
Yeah, it's not something I'm proud of, so try and keep it secret from everybody. But yeah, Austin, yeah, I remember his like TNA title win and stuff, and yeah, I always knew it as like the Last Chancery. Plus, his first stint in the company, which we're going years back as Austin Starr, which Paparazzi Productions.
Dude, that wasn't even his first run in the company.
Oh, wasn't?
No, dude, he was having appearances as early as like 05.
Wow, was that before my time? I don't think that was before my time with TNA. I mean,
well, you're talking Paparazzi Productions. That was more like 07.
Damn. When did I start watching? Well, wait. You know what? I don't even want to have a discussion about TNA. This is NXT. I don't want to figure out when I started watching TNA.
There's enough TNA talent in NXT to warrant this discussion. Just say what you want to say.
No, I just want to say, like, Christian Cage, was he 06?
Yes.
Okay, then that's when I actively started watching, I guess, because the first feud I remember was him and Abyss.
The pay-per-view that Christian Cage debuted on in TNA was a pay-per-view that Austin Aries had an appearance on.
Wow. See, I knew Christian Cage appeared at a TNA pay-per-view, but at the time, I still didn't, know the workings of the world as I do today, so I didn't see the pay-per-view, you know? So, that's...
I actually own that pay-per-view on DVD.
Are you proud of that?
Well, you know what? It was a good show. It was a good show, so, yeah.
Yeah, okay. But,
there was a big, I'm trying to remember. There was a Monsters Ball on that show, which, I mean, obviously Abyss was in it because Abyss is in every Monsters Ball, but I don't remember who his opponent was.
Right. It doesn't matter. They're probably gone anyway.
I just remember because Christian Cage debuted on that show, and that was like an awesome moment.
Yeah, and see, maybe I heard buzz about it and stuff, because then, again, the first TNA feud that I remember, which I think was my active viewership, was Christian Cage as a face, as the NWA champion, against Abyss, when he still had James Mitchell, who was awesome.
James Mitchell. Oh, man.
Yeah. So, yeah, on to less relevant things. So, Austin Aries, cuts that promo.
Oh, good old Austin Starr, as you referred to him.
Honestly, dude, I think I preferred Austin Starr to Austin Aries. At least he actually had personality.
Starr with 2 R's, that is.
Yes, Starr with 2 R's. Oh, my God. Nowadays, it's just, oh, excuse me, Cathy, I have to go eat this banana and get my potassium levels up. You know there's a class, Aries. I highly suggest you take it. Rub the temples counterclockwise. Anything else you want to...
What do you mean by the class reference?
Well, I mean promo classes. Know, yeah, didn't Dusty used to host those, and now somebody else is hosting them now.
Yeah, but do you think Austin Aries is that bad?
Yes. Who cuts a promo about a banana and eating potassium levels? I can't be alone on this. Somebody's got to have my back on this.
You know that was a reference to Reddit, right?
Was it?
He was giving Reddit a shout-out.
Well, then I'm old and in the way. I don't know what to tell you. All right, let's move on.
Yeah, man. Like a year ago or so, Reddit thought that Kevin Owens was reading their subreddit, was reading their posts and stuff. So somebody made a post that was, Kevin Owens, if you're reading this during your next promo, mention a banana. So, yeah, I mean, it's been a while since that post, but Austin Aries clearly read it because he brought up a banana just randomly out of nowhere.
Right.
So either he's got one of the weirdest personalities ever, and not necessarily in a good way, or he was just shouting out the Squared Circle subreddit.
Well, Aries gets a pass this time, but there's still plenty of other shit to give him, so there you go.
You really hate him. It's weird.
It's not hatred. It's just like this really indifference.
Feels like a little bit of at least bitterness towards.
Well, I mean, maybe. It's just like, but seriously, don't laugh. Because I'm just being serious. I don't really get it with Austin Aries, and I feel like I don't understand what the big deal is, and... Yeah, I mean, maybe it is bitterness, because he is somebody that I would probably laugh to see fail. If it was oh, we've released Austin Aries, I'd be like, that was fun, and then move on to the next thing, I just look at heels, if Austin Aries, again, maybe going heel, which I don't even know why he isn't now, again, given the crowd reaction, and Full Sail tonight, so this isn't even me projecting anymore. I tell you about the era of those heels, he's kind of the redheaded stepchild we put in the corner. Don't come out, we don't need you. We got Naito and Kevin Owens and all these other guys. He just, not even a blip on the radar to me. So.
Okay.
Yeah, let's move on.
All right. Up next, we got an Andrade Cien Almas vignette that ended with NXT TakeOver the End. So it's probably safe to assume that that's where he's going to debut next week.
Yeah, dude. Now this guy... It's funny that I just got done lambasting Austin Aries in the preceding segment, because this guy, if he is going heel, which again, we get that vibe from the removal of the mask, I'm excited for. I am excited for this. I love the vignette. I love the atmosphere. I love the symbolism, again, of just watching himself while undoing the mask and then taking it off. I haven't been this hyped for a debut, honestly, since Kevin Owens on NXT.
Wow.
So it's really cool to see this guy. I am excited, people.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Maybe he can kick Austin Aries in the groin on his way to the back. So,
oh my God.
Gonna be
Yeah,
good
I mean, yeah, I'm definitely excited for this as well. We know, or we knew, I guess I should say, this guy as La Sombra when he was in CMLL, and he was the de facto leader of the group that Naito is in, Los Ingobernables, which, I mean, we know Naito's sort of incarnation is Los Ingobernables de Japón, which is the Ingovernables of Japan. But yeah, it's a pretty awesome faction, and he was the leader of it, so he's got to be a pretty awesome dude. And we've already at the very least, I've seen a match of his, because I saw the match that he was in where he got unmasked. He lost to Atlantis, and that was a solid match. And you know, it's exciting that he's going to be on NXT now. He's got a great look unmasked, so definitely, and especially if he's going to be a heel like we're kind of predicting he will be, that's exciting too.
Oh my goodness, yeah, dude. I mean, let me just ask you, do you have any speculation? If you do, you could also say you want to save it for Tuesday, but any speculation about who his opponent might be for TakeOver the End?
Well, if they really want to kind of make it seem like, you know, kind of pull the bait and switch, where they're kind of trying to make it seem like, oh, well, maybe he's a good guy and let the crowd cheer for him, but then he's a jerk. I think Dillinger is the perfect opponent for him.
I was thinking Dillinger. You know, it's funny. I stand by everything I said. I do want Dillinger to get pushed, but I mean, clearly right now that's not a priority for NXT, so I've got to work in reality. Might as well get the most out of him. And a guy that's that over, if La Sombra is just a complete, or I should say Andrade, is just going to be that much of a dick, yeah, it works perfectly. So I'm thinking Dillinger as well. Should be very fun to watch. I was going to say, if I'm being honest with everybody, that's probably one of the things I'm anticipating most at TakeOver the End, which is really saying something because they've been hyping the hell out of the steel cage match and everything else. And American Alpha's on this card. But yeah, this debut, man, has got me licking my lips.
Sabu! That's who Abyss faced in that freaking ball. It was Sabu.
Was it a barbed wire massacre match by any chance? Or no, you said Monsters Ball, right? So no other stipulation outside of that.
You know what? I don't even know if it was a Monsters Ball. I just associate Abyss with Monsters Ball. Anytime Abyss is in a match, it's a Monsters Ball match.
Right.
Like, I don't even care if it's billed as a Monsters Ball. If Abyss is in it, that's what it is.
There you go. So, anything else? Yeah.
No, I don't have anything else to talk about with Almas. Let's move on. Third match, final match of the night. Gargano and Ciampa versus the Revival. Solid match. I'm John, I'm going to let you talk about the meat of this match. I just want to say I loved the finish.
Okay, I was even going to ask you what you felt about the finish, and you answered straight away. So, what'd you love about it exactly?
Two things. First of all, I love that it felt fluky, and second of all, I love who won.
Yeah, I was really going to ask you about that. It's so funny that you answered that right out of the gate because, you know, I think what made me cool with it, like I was debating it a little bit internally because I do love both teams, so it wasn't a personal thing. But I'm like, you know, is this right? But you know what? It's different because I think what we used to love and can still love in moments like this about NXT is it challenges convention. You know, it challenges formula. And formula normally says...
Like, one of my favorite things ever in NXT was when Blake and Murphy beat the Lucha Dragons for the titles, because nobody saw that coming.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And normally, when you look at by-the-numbers booking, especially in the WWE, if you've got competitors in a title match, especially, you know, the challengers, you want them to win, especially when their title match, you know, is imminent, you know, is a week away in the case of the Revival. NXT says, nah, man, we can have them lose and protect them by having a fluky finish, and that's exactly what they did. You know, superplex by Dawson. Gargano, though, caught him in the cradle, which is perfect because he's called Johnny Wrestling, so figures that guy would have that kind of counter for this situation, and they get the win. You know, it was a great back and forth match. The Revival doing, you know, what they do, distracting the ref, beating up on Ciampa's knee. Gargano's hot tag was sick. He really knows how to work that ring and get the crowd into the match. You know, two great elements. Again, I said earlier when we were hyping up a later discussion about this match now that these two teams could have a takeover match together, and I'd believe it. but we got it on NXT. I think it was a great match, and I like that Gargano. And another reason why I like that Gargano and Ciampa won, I'll tell you this, is whoever emerges from the NXT Tag Team Championship match, the winner, you immediately have your number one contenders right there waiting in the wings. I don't think there should be any ambiguity about it or this and that. Clearly, Gargano and Ciampa, they're ready for it, and they're hungry for it. So, yeah, I loved everything about this. And then you get to the post-match to get their heat back. The Revival, beat down Gargano and Ciampa. Ciampa eats a shatter machine, and then it looks like they're going to do to him what they did to Big Cass, which wouldn't have made me laugh nearly as hard because I really like Ciampa. So, thankfully American Alpha comes out, and they start brawling with the Revival, so you get that hype, and it concludes with dual German suplexes by American Alpha to the Revival. So, I mean, what did you think about all this, Ashton?
So do you mean to tell me that you don't like Big Cass?
Oh, I do. I just think I like Ciampa more, if I'm being honest, from that wrestling standpoint. So,
All right.
There you go.
Well, yeah, man. Like I said, my favorite part about this match was the finish, and mostly because of the decision to let Gargano and Ciampa get this win over your number one contenders to the tag titles. Like, that's a bold decision to make, and I think it's a good decision to make.
Yeah, because to me, it's looking ahead, and I love that again. In my eyes, we already have our new number one contenders set up, and this takeover hasn't even passed yet.
Right.
I like that forward-thinking attitude. So great stuff here.
Yeah, man. All right, so now, are we ready to talk about our actual final segment of the night?
I'm ready.
Nia Jax and Asuka contract signing. This is kind of awkward, kind of weird. Mostly, as far as awkward goes, just because they're wearing like random casual gear. Just weird to see, like Nia Jax in a pantsuit and Asuka rocking like the casual Friday getup.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you personally to give like your in-depth thoughts on this segment, because I know that you're not thrilled with Nia on the mic, and I know you said even recently, like maybe even 2 NXT TWitWoWs ago, or maybe even the one last week, that you feel like Asuka speaking English, there's a discomfort that you sense from her. So, I mean, what all did you think about
I thought
this?
she was fine tonight. Tonight she did pretty well. The first thing she said was that, she told Nia that she talks too much, and then she yelled in Japanese, and she was really into it. And from what I understand, what she actually said there was basically, oh, you think you could do it? You think you can do it, huh? Something like that. And then she said, of course, you're not afraid of me? Well, you should be. And I think that everything that she said tonight specifically landed.
I agree. I actually really liked Asuka here. I've been kind of waiting for this ever since she won the title, and maybe even before that. I love that she yelled in Japanese and got into it. And I think, honestly, if you want my opinion, I think she needs to start doing that more. Yeah. I would like to see her shout out Japanese phrases every now and again there, because it would probably make her more comfortable. Like, okay, I get to say something in my native tongue. Now let me just say something, because, I mean, nobody's going to actively translate it on site. So I actually thought she was literally translating what she said in Japanese with the preceding statement, if you're not afraid of me, you should be, in English. And maybe at times she'll do it, maybe at times she won't. But I think the important thing is we get her comfortable. And she looked very comfortable to me, more confident than she has in recent memory.
I mean, admittedly, I was a little bit confused by the decision of these women to go, like, business casual, just because... I mean, we've had multiple women's championship contract signings before, and I don't ever remember Sasha Banks or Bayley or Becky Lynch ever rocking the business casual attire. It was just weird.
Right. So something was off for you, mainly about the atmosphere they projected, because,
Like, what were they going for? This is a contract signing, not a press conference. You know that, right?
Right. I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
I'm still not thrilled with Nia on the mic, though I will say I got to give her some credit. Like, she knew how to get the heat, because she really emphasized that she destroyed Bayley. She knows what Bayley means to Full Sail.
Exactly.
I thought that was good. People could call it GP'd, and maybe that's warranted, but she knew what to do.
Well, I don't know how. I think if you call it cheap heat, then you're kind of bastardizing the definition of cheap heat, you know?
Right. Yeah.
Because like the definition of cheap heat is to go after local sports teams and stuff like that.
Right. I get what you're saying.
Because like basically then you're redefining cheap heat to just any easy way to get heat, you know?
Right. Exactly.
And
yeah.
that's not what cheap heat is meant to be. But like this is smart heat. You know what I mean?
Right.
Just
and
because
I agree.
it's smart and the easiest way to get heat in this scenario, that doesn't necessarily make it cheap.
Right. I agree
You know?
completely.
Yeah.
You know, Nia knew it would get a response.
And it
was
did.
the closest way to get a response, and it did. Yeah, and that's what you want. And especially,
although I will say, as much of a response as that got, I think that she got more of a response when Asuka started to attack her, went for that kick, and she caught her and then got her up and powerbombed her. That got more of a response than the Bayley discussion.
And that was a great moment for the Nia character.
Yeah.
And, you know, I like that preceded her attack on Bayley because that just bolsters the credence of it. Because she's puffing her chest out like, oh, I broke the heart and the soul of NXT. If she would have gotten bitched out, I feel like the gravity of that statement would have diminished. And instead, it's exacerbated because now she's laid out the current NXT Women's Champion. I was actually thinking she may even hit Regal, too. Regal seemed like he was going to come in and just be like, ain't Nia enough. And I thought she was going to, like, backhand him or something. That didn't happen. But yeah, Nia really making a statement. So, and that's the thing, like, I'm not asking for soliloquies from Nia Jax. Honestly, personally, I would prefer if she didn't talk at all. And maybe if she had, like, a handler or something of some type to do the talking for her. Because when she has those moments of physicality, like that powerbomb, those are the moments. You know, that's what sells, I think, for a character like Nia Jax. And I felt like it was a standout moment here. So, yeah, I mean, I give this contract signing a thumbs up. I liked what they both did. I think they put their best foot forward, all things considered. And, yeah, I mean, I'm not totally enthused about this match at TakeOver. They end up being 100% honest, but it should be a good effort from both women.
Yeah, man, I think this is one of those matches where it's just like you got to do it and just get it out of the way before moving past it.
Exactly.
Because it's basically NXT Women's Division's version of Clash of the Titans. Like, this is their Cage Matanza. You know what I mean?
Right. All right. Do you have anything you want to say about the contract signing that hasn't already been said?
No, let's move on.
All right. Our next segment, high spots and low shots. I'm going to say that my low shot is Asuka.
Yeah.
You know, says, oh, if you're not afraid of me, you should be. And Nia had a very physical retort and just powerbombing Asuka on the canvas. So a rough night for the NXT Women's Champion.
Yeah, man. She definitely did not have an easy night. She thought she was going to get one up on Nia, but Nia caught her. And that was not easy to watch, you know?
Absolutely.
My low shot, though, is the Revival. It has to be. They need all the momentum that they can possibly get to carry them into next week where they're facing American Alpha for the tag titles, and they ended up losing tonight. That is not something that you want just kind of hanging over your head in that title match.
Especially after being so braggadocious in the opening segment. Look at us.
Yeah, that's just kind of how they are, though.
Yeah, I mean, that is how they are, but I mean, to go from that to losing to people that aren't even really formally established as, you know, number one contenders, because, I mean, the Revival are the number one contenders right now, to your point. Like, I don't know, it was a rough night for those guys. High spot, Ty Dillinger. I don't get to say it often. We really don't get to say it often. You know, because, you know, I don't know when he's going to win again. So, I mean, might as well take advantage of it while it's there. So, yeah, Ty Dillinger super over with the crowd, beat Buddy Murphy, and yeah, good stuff.
Well, frick, man, since you took the guy that I was going to take, I'll just take Buddy Murphy since he was the one that lost to the guy that I was going to take, and he looked awesome tonight.
Oh, well, that's a really weird justification. I honestly thought you were going to pick Gargano and Ciampa with how much you love that they got the win tonight.
I'm happy that they got the win, but I'm not, like, as spiritually behind them as I am Buddy Murphy.
Well, that's fair enough. That's your prerogative.
I will agree with you that they had the better night, but you kind of, you know, let the wind out of my sails when you took Dillinger because that was my guy.
Oh, I apologize. I really thought you were going to go the other way, and I thought you wouldn't mind if I took this one. So that was a miscalculation on my part. But anything you want to say about NXT?
Nope, we're finished.
All right. This has been NXT. This has been TWitWoW, the best wrestling podcast made for wrestling fans, by wrestling fans, on the web today. I'm John. That's my cohort and commentary, Ashton. Guys, be sure to comment and subscribe on YouTube. Ashton, what question do you have for our subscribers this week?
Yeah. Let's talk about Ty Dillinger, because obviously John and I both agree that he had the best night tonight. Where do you see Ty Dillinger going in the future? Do you think he's going to be on NXT TakeOver the End? Do you think he's going to be on that card? If so, who against? If not, what do you think is going to happen for him over the course of the next couple months?
Yeah, let's talk all things Dillinger, guys. You heard the question. Get the conversation started down in the comments below. Talk to us. Be sure to take that conversation over to Pweetoff. That is Pro Wrestling is taking over Facebook. An amazing group of people, diehard wrestling fans, and I know an NXT thread is started pretty regularly, each week. So if you're looking for a way to introduce yourself, that might be your means right there. Also, be sure to check out the TWitWoW Facebook page. Like, share, and comment on the content there. If Facebook isn't your medium of choice, we do have a TWitWoW subreddit. On the TWitWoW subreddit, you can find all of our TWitWoW content, and members of the subreddit can create threads of their own on all things related to pro wrestling. However, for the best possible TWitWoW experience, I highly recommend you follow both of us on Twitter. I am at John_TwitWoW. That is JOHN_TwitWoW. Ashton is at apond404. That's the letter A, pond, the body of water, POND 404. And we will see you again for our Monday Night Raw review, where we will see how AJ will follow up on his latest attack on John Cena last week and his explanation for the club's reformation. And you get the best coverage of Raw right here at TWitWoW. And until then, guys, tune in and peace out.